Fans around the world, thank you for joining me once again here on Talkin Fight for another episode of Boxing News Today. I'm going to start off by telling you what we're not going to talk about. We're not going to talk about the Boatsy Aziz upcoming fight. We're not going to talk about Conor Benn and his fight upcoming. We're not going to talk about Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, and their fight coming up. We're not going to talk about any of these fights coming up. Loma Koposis Jr., we're not going to talk about Devin Haney. I'd love to, but why? It's all the same. There are no results right now. There's nothing really going on. We're not really interested in why Dan Aziz has modeled his game after Marvin Hagler. We're not really interested in Shannon Briggs re-entering the ring once again on June 1st to go toe-to-toe against Rampage Jackson. This is not the stuff that's interesting. What is interesting today is what has been reported in the Canadian media with respect to women in the ring. As you might recall, back in 2021, Mexican boxer Jeanette Zapata entered into a fight against Marie-Pier Houle at Montreal's IGA Stadium, and there has now been a coroner's report that has been issued following that match, which led to her death. The coroner, based in Quebec, issued his report just the other day. Jacques Ramsey concluded that the 18-year-old Zapata died of a traumatic brain injury after she suffered a cerebral knockout during the match with Quebec boxer Marie-Pier Houle. Though Ramsey said her death was accidental, he noted it came 15 weeks after a match in Mexico, quote, against a much more experienced opponent, during which she likely suffered a similar cerebral knockout characterized by head trauma causing a concussion. He said, in the final round, visibly exhausted, Miss Zapata was dominated by a much better conditioned opponent who delivered several solid blows to the head until Zacarias Zapata clung to the ropes and dropped to one knee, describing the video of the match that he watched. Zacarias Zapata was held up only by the cables, eventually collapsed to the ground where she lay still. The boxer was brought to the hospital and released hours later. Though her father initially attributed her faint to lack of oxygen and subsequent medical evaluation showed nothing abnormal, Ramsey said the video of the match led him to determine Zapata had experienced a cerebral knockout. She would nevertheless answer negative to a question on a government-issued questionnaire ahead of the August fight in Montreal about previous concussions, head injuries, and losses of consciousness. Her response to the questionnaire suggests she didn't consider the May knockout to be a concussion, Ramsey said. He pointed, however, to what he described as a widespread tendency to downplay or even trivialize neurological symptoms among boxers at all levels. A practice, said the coroner, quote, is part of the boxing culture. Among Ramsey's recommendations is a call for Quebec's sports regulator, the agency known as Régie d'Alcool des Courses et des Jeux, to require combat sport fighters who are knocked out in a preceding match to submit details of what happened and associated medical reports before their next fight. Those who experience cerebral knockouts would also to submit neuropsychological reports. Those submissions, he said, would be a condition of the regulator's approval of a fight. Finally, Ramsey recommends the agency mandate neuropsychological testing for professional combat sports athletes when issuing them licenses to practice in Quebec. Such measures would allow officials to compare test results from before and after knockout and allow the sports regulator to better appreciate the nature of the injuries sustained by the boxer and thus better fulfill its mission of ensuring the boxer's safety. Indeed, and that is what we need, without a doubt. Good to note that Rhiannon Dixon taking on Karen Carabajal, upcoming for WBO World Lightweight title. That's on April 13th, taking place in Manchester. Rhiannon Dixon, she's going to be fighting for that world title. 29-year-old, trained by Anthony Crolla. She's going to go toe-to-toe with an experienced Argentinian who went the distance very recently last year against Katie Taylor. So it's going to be a really, really good fight between two young ladies who are very experienced in the ring. Although Dixon uh, is undefeated, she's only had 9 fights as a professional. She's certainly going to be put to the test by the 33-year-old from Buenos Aires, who, as I said, has gone the distance with Katie Taylor just last year and has a record of 21 wins, 3 by knockout, and only 1 loss to Taylor. So that's going to be a good fight. But let's take what we just heard from that coroner into account when we put these ladies in the ring, and they recognize what's at stake, as do the men. But I thought I'd focus on the women today. Lanny Daniels from Down Under, New Zealand specifically, world champion in 2 different divisions, has been forced to vacate one of her titles, according to the IBF. Lanny Daniels, a 2-division world champion, has been forced to vacate one of her titles. The Northland boxer had an exceptional 2023, claiming victory in both the IBF World Heavyweight and the IBF World Light Heavyweight categories. Post her remarkable win, Daniels' management was notified by the IBF that their regulations prohibited holding world titles in 2 different weight divisions simultaneously. In the latest update, the IBF has released its monthly rankings exclusively for the female boxing division, confirming Daniels' decision to vacate the heavyweight title while retaining the light heavyweight title. The move aligns with her plans to eventually move down to super middleweight. Daniels' manager, John Conway, initially intended for her to defend the heavyweight title in her next bout before returning to the light heavyweight division later in 2024. However, unforeseen circumstances arose when the scheduled opponent declined the fight, prompting a change in plans. So the upcoming rematch between Daniels and Desley Robinson is certain, though additional details about potential opponents remain uncertain at this time. Although a Russian young lady by the name of Luisa Davidova, who holds the top rank in the IBF light heavyweight division, is a potential threat to her title. Let's move along to discuss women in the ring down under in New Zealand in the wake of that announcement to vacate her heavyweight title. Let's take a look at a young lady by the name of Tinta Smith, who will take on Trish Vaka for the vacant New Zealand National Professional Boxing Commission as the PBCNZ heavyweight title. That's on March 16th at the Te Rapa Racecourse. Dion McNabney will promote the 16th edition of the Young Guns boxing event, promoting some of New Zealand's best amateur boxing out of Waikato and his gym at Nabby's Boxing. McNabney has created a rich boxing history, training 28 New Zealand champions, including beginning the career of 2-division IBF world champion Lanny Daniels. Smith has also had some impressive accomplishments in her amateur boxing career, becoming a 2-division New Zealand amateur champ in 2021 and 2023. She's beaten some of the best in the amateur division, including Commonwealth Games, Megan Maka, WBC rep Deanna Reed, and more. Vaka, Smith's next opponent, has been in the ring for some of the best, with 5 of her losses coming from either world champions or world title contendants. And she recently returned to boxing after a 4-year break, taking on Rosianna Cox in Whangarei. Let's see if there's anything else here. There is. Outside boxing, by the way, Vaka is a professional rugby player. Wow, that's one tough young lady. The women's boxing division has started to heat up in New Zealand, with some interesting fights to be made from the winner of this particular fight upcoming between Smith and Vaka. And so it's good to know that we do have some great fights going on down under, not just in Australia, but in New Zealand, the home of Miyamoto, who we've mentioned quite often here on Talkin Fight, and appreciate what she's doing for the sport and her trainers over at Peach Boxing. Good stuff. I'm going to end today's show by a quick little quote from Ryan Garcia, who is certainly having his troubles these days finding an opponent, that's for sure. As we all know, he was hoping for, I think, a rematch against Tank Davies after getting beaten by Tank. But anyway, after that, Garcia took out Oscar Duarte, and he was hoping, I think, to fight, based on that 1 defeat Tank, Devin Haney, but has shifted his attention due to his shall we say, moving weights to Rolly Romero and Isaac Cruz, but both those matchups couldn't be made either. So he looks like it looks like, according to what he's saying, he would just simply prefer to go after Devin Haney and go toe-to-toe against Devin Haney. But what he said was, and what made me laugh, he goes, this is what his quote was. This is Ryan Garcia saying, quote, Devin will be destroyed, and his daddy's going to have to pick him up. I just love that. All right, good stuff. Thanks for joining me here on Talkin Fight. Appreciate it very much. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We'll see you later on, 11 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow here on Talkin Fight. Thanks very much for joining me. I do appreciate it. I appreciate your support, and your comments are most welcome as well. Thank you.